My parents were spontaneous. I believe a stable home is the kindest thing you can give anyone, especially a rescue. Maya's voice was clear and steady in the bright room. She sat with her back straight in the blue plastic chair, her hands resting on her knees. I sat beside her, nodding at the right moments. The woman from the shelter smiled at Maya and made a note on her clipboard. The air smelled of cleaning chemicals. Everything was white walls and gray polished floor. We were there for a dog, a corgi named Mochi. It was the final interview. Maya had prepared for it like a job application, with spreadsheets for feeding schedules and a budget for vet bills. I just needed to look supportive. I tried to smile when the woman looked at me. My jacket felt tight across my shoulders. Maya answered another question about our work schedules and how we would ensure the dog was never alone for more than 4 hours. She was perfect. She had a plan for everything. The woman stood up and told us we were approved. Maya's smile was controlled, but I could see the relief in her eyes. Another milestone was met. We signed the papers, and they brought Mochi out on a new red leash. He was small and his ears were very large. In the car, Maya connected her phone to the dashboard screen. I drove while she opened our shared calendar. Her fingers moved quickly across the glass. I am scheduling his first vet checkup for next Tuesday, and we should book a grooming appointment for the following month. She looked over at the dog, who was curled in a travel crate on the back seat. I watched the gentle rise and fall of Mochi's flank in the darkness of the car. We drove into the garage beneath our apartment building, and the gate closed behind us with a heavy sound. Inside, the air was still. Our apartment was all light gray walls and dark wood furniture with sharp edges. There were no pictures on the walls. Mochi sniffed the floor cautiously. Maya put his new water bowl down in the kitchen, exactly where the floor plan she drew had indicated it should go. The dog, this perfect new piece of our perfect life, walked over to his crate and let out a soft sigh of contentment. The sound landed like a stone in my stomach. A single, terrifying question echoed in the silent apartment. What have I done? At work the next day, I mentioned the dog to Kenji while I made coffee. He worked at the desk next to mine. He looked at me over the rim of his mug. Dude, you're toast. He stirred his coffee with a plastic stick. A dog is the gateway drug. Next, it's a mortgage you can't afford and a minivan. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, but it's a much more pleasant trip. You just chose the smooth sea forever. Kenji walked away toward his desk, leaving me staring into my own lukewarm coffee. A smooth sea, I whispered to myself. I looked out the window at the predictable grid of city traffic moving below. I felt for the first time like I was drowning in it. The dog had needs. Maya's schedule accounted for them all. My shift was the morning walk. My alarm went off at 6. It was dark outside. I put on a coat and attached the leash to Mochi's collar. We went down in the elevator and out onto the silent street. The air was damp. Maya had researched the best dog park in the area. It was a 10-minute walk away. I had never been there before. We passed through a metal gate into a large, fenced area. The grass was wet and the ground smelled of earth. It was a scent entirely alien to my sealed apartment and recycled office air. A few other people stood around while their dogs wrestled in the dim light. I tightened my grip on the leash. I felt like an astronaut stepping onto a new planet. I was completely out of my element, and for a reason I could not name, my heart began to beat a little faster. Mochi pulled the leash from my hand and ran toward a boxer with white paws. I walked over. The boxer's owner was a woman wearing a heavy coat over blue hospital scrubs. She wore a dark headscarf. Looks like they're friends. Her voice was calm. I stood next to her and watched the dogs play. I'm Juman. That's Omar. Nico. And that's Mochi. We stood in silence for a few moments, just watching. It was easy. She held a silver thermos. Want some tea? My grandmother sends it from Mogadishu. A little taste of home helps on the rough days. She poured a small amount into the cup that served as a lid and handed it to me. The tea was hot and sweet, with the taste of cardamom and clove. It warmed my hands. As I drank it, I saw a flicker of movement in a bare tree nearby. A small bird landed on a branch. I knew what it was. My mother had taught me the names of birds when I was a boy, a skill I had not used in a decade. It's a cedar waxwing. Juman looked up at the tree, then back at me. She seemed genuinely impressed. I just thought it was a regular old bird. She smiled then, a genuine, uncomplicated expression that asked for nothing. After a few more minutes, she clipped the leash onto her dog's collar. I have to go. My shift starts soon. See you tomorrow, Nico. She walked away. I stood there for a moment with the empty cup, the spiced warmth of the tea still on my tongue. The thought came to me with a stark clarity. 15 minutes with a stranger had felt more real than the last 5 years of my life. Sometimes you have to burn down the perfect life to find the right one. The words came from Juman as she watched her boxer, Omar, chase Mochi in a wide circle over the wood chips. She had been a landscape designer for a year after leaving a finance job that paid for a life she realized she did not want. I was good at it, she told me, but my soul was shriveling up. The thought stayed with me all day, a smooth stone in my pocket. I kept turning over and over. I started going to bed earlier so I could be more awake for those 15 minutes in the gray light of morning. It was the only part of my day that felt like it belonged to me. That night, Maya showed me a spreadsheet on her laptop, the screen casting a pale blue light across her face in our dark living room. It compared the 15 and 30-year mortgage rates on a condominium in the suburbs, a place with good schools and a high resale value. The numbers on the 15-year are aggressive, but better in the long run, she said, and she traced a column of figures with her finger. I nodded beside her on the sofa. I was not seeing the numbers. I was seeing the silhouette of a cedar waxwing against a dawn sky, a picture from a book my mother gave me when I was a boy. The silence in the apartment felt louder than a scream, a pressurized quiet that pushed on my eardrums. The 15 minutes at the park were no longer enough. They were just a reminder of the hours that were not like them. I needed more. The next evening, I stood in the kitchen doorway while Maya updated our shared calendar on the large screen by the refrigerator. I have a new project at work, I said. There's a kickoff meeting every morning at 7 for the next few weeks. The words felt like swallowing glass. Maya did not turn around. She just tapped the screen and a new colored block appeared under my name. A recurring event in a life that now felt like a recurring lie. That night, I lay awake for a long time listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing. I was terrified, not that she would catch me, but that she never would. The extra 30 minutes at the park changed everything. The conversations with Juman grew less cautious, filling the bigger space we now had. I brought the small, worn-out book my mother had given me, a beginner's guide to birds of the Pacific Northwest, and kept it in my coat. Its pages were soft from years of neglect. He hadn't touched it in a decade. I would read a page or two while Mochi ran, feeling a part of myself wake up that had been asleep for my entire adult life. A week later, Maya was waiting for me when I got out of the shower. She stood in the middle of our bedroom, her arms crossed, her clothes already perfectly neat. I feel like there is a pane of glass between us lately, and I do not know how to break it. Her voice was steady, like she was reporting a project delay. I can schedule anything, Nico, but I do not know how to schedule a way to get you back. A cold panic seized my chest. This was the conversation I had been avoiding for years. My mind went blank, searching for an escape, for anything that would make the feeling stop. I walked past her to my laptop on the desk, opened it, and pulled up a real estate website. Everything is great, I said, my voice sounding hollow in the quiet room. I was just thinking, maybe we should start seriously looking for our own place. The next morning, the air at the park was cold and sharp. I told Juman about a sharp-shinned hawk I saw on the walkover, how I only knew what it was because it's a little book in my pocket. She asked to see it, and I explained how my Guarani mother had taught me to watch the world without needing to name everything, but my father loved the order of a field guide. The book felt like both of them at once. I said something about how strange it was to feel like two different people your whole life, and Juman burst into a genuine, heartfelt laugh. It was a clean and uncomplicated sound. I was laughing too, my head thrown back, a man I had not been in years. The woman beside me watched me with a simple, unguarded warmth. Then, my eyes met hers from across the park. Maya was standing by the fence. Her face was still, unreadable, and she was watching us. My laughter died on my lips. The cold air rushed back into my lungs. The smooth sea was gone. Maya did not say a word. She just turned and walked back to the car. I clipped the leash onto Mochi's collar and followed her across the wet grass. The drive home was dead silent, a long stretch of road where the unspoken truth filled the small space and made it hard to breathe. The city lights slid past the windows, blurring into lines of color that meant nothing to me. Back in the apartment, the quiet was worse. It was a sterile quiet that echoed off the white walls and the clean furniture. I sat on the couch, in the same spot where I had felt the first wave of dread the day we brought Mochi home. I could try to fix this. I could invent a story about Juman, apologize for a misunderstanding, and we could go back to looking at condominium listings online. We could retreat into the comfortable life we had built. I looked at the dark television screen across from me and saw my own reflection. A man with tired eyes sat there, a passive shape in his own home. He had let someone else chart his course for so long he had forgotten how to hold a map. I would not save this life. I would not patch the hole. I would sink the ship. Maya finally broke the silence. Her voice was cold and controlled from the other side of the room. "Who is she?" I took a deep breath. The air in the room felt thin. "She's no one. This isn't about her. It's about me. Maya, this life, the one we built, it's perfect. But it's your life. I don't know what mine is, but it isn't this." The words were out in the sterile air between us. I saw the flicker of confusion in her eyes harden into the sharp lines of a problem to be solved, a project that had failed. The demolition had begun. Her grief did not come out as tears. It turned into a cold fury, a quiet and efficient process of containment. While I packed a cardboard box with my clothes and a few books, she stood in the doorway. Mochi was in his crate, watching us with nervous eyes. Maya pointed to him. "He was your idea of an escape," she said, her voice flat. "So take him. I don't want another one of your projects." I finished taping the box closed. The sound of the tape pulling from the roll was loud in the apartment. I clipped the leash onto Mochi's collar. The dog whined softly and licked my hand. I left my key on the kitchen counter, a small silver object on the perfect dark granite. I closed the door behind me without looking back. The soft click of the lock was the only sound in a world that had just blown wide open. The next morning, at 6:30, I was at the dog park with Mochi. The light was the same gray color and the air was the same. Everything was different. I stood by the bench where Jumin and I always talked. I was alone. I watched the gate at the entrance of the park. I did not know if she would show up. I did not know if she would show up. I did not know what I would say to her if she did. A boxer that was not Omar ran past, and for a moment my breath caught in my chest. I scanned the entrance again. It was empty. I stood there waiting. For her, for the sun, for a sign that I had made the right choice, but nothing came. I was alone in the quiet morning, terrified and free. I watched the empty path and waited for what would happen next.